So it's rainy Britain, London, and we're near Trafalgar Square and going into the Royal Society for some sessions with students about the internet, more about the internet in Silicon Valley and innovation. And it is pouring rain here, which is more to our idea of Britain. So we're here at the Royal Society because we're about the most unroyal group of people you could ever imagine. But nonetheless, we are here to give our insights about Silicon Valley. So we're here at the Royal Society, which has all these cool scientific-looking things everywhere. Here's a scepter of some sort. The mace of the Royal Society. Because you hit people with it if they won't listen to you about your scientific theories. The mace, the science mace. And this is, over here is King Charles II, who apparently started the Royal Society. Thanks, King Charles. So here's some prominent scientists of the long ago era. Ben Franklin, Sir Hal Stone, he's a botanist. And he also invented milk chocolate, and his recipe was used by Cadbury's until 1885. We owe him a debt of gratitude. Who else? Got James Bradley. He's an astronomer. So he found out the phenomenon of stellar aberration and the mutation or wobble of the Earth's axis. Wow. William Watson. Kind of scary looking. Field of electricity. Michael Faraday. Electromagnetic induction in 1831. Thank you, Michael Faraday. Abraham de Moivre. He's a private school teacher and mathematician. And Joseph Priestley, who was a dissenter. The best known discovery was of defloggasated air, later to be identified as oxygen. The air we breathe. Thank you, Joseph Priestley. Hans Peter, how you doing? This is Hans Peter Brondmo, who is the head of Plum, creator of Plum, who's an entrepreneur here in London. What have you learned, Hans Peter?
What have I learned?
HP, what have you learned?
I've learned that there's interesting stuff going on outside of Silicon Valley.
Yeah, that's a big shock. To,
Huge shock.
You know, there is the rest of the world from the U.S.
I know.
That's interesting, given you're Norwegian.
Countries over here. Yeah, I'm Norwegian, but that was a long time ago.
That was a long time ago. So what's your takeaway? What's your takeaway from this?
My takeaway is that there's still, Europe still has a ways to go to kind of create the ecosystem we have in Silicon Valley.
Right.
But that there's a lot of good attempts, and actually a lot of good entrepreneurs. A lot of serial entrepreneurs, people who have done it once, been successful.
Right.
So that's all good. There's definitely an ecosystem here that's evolving pretty rapidly.
And any trend that you're interested in that you picked up on here?
Well, you know, I think it's actually good to be outside of the valley just because there are all these little details that matter a lot if you're trying to build applications for a global market. And so by just being here and hanging out and listening to how people respond to the stuff we're doing, you know, you're learning a lot about that. As far as trends go, you know, everybody from Silicon Valley is talking about social networking. Right. Which is... and they could
almost care less here in a lot of ways.
In fact, today I tried to go through a whole panel.
It's like, who the hell is Mark Zuckerberg, pretty much?
Well, they do care, but I tried to go through a whole panel today and not say the F word once. Yeah. And it was really hard. I had to keep referring to it as the little Palo Alto-based company. Right,
interesting. Hans Peter, as usual, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're here with Saul Klein from Index Ventures. Saul, how's it going?
I'm doing really well.
Good.
So nice to have you guys over here.
No problem. Hey, what's the big trend in Europe right now?
The big trend in Europe is listening to Americans.
Oh,
love it.
Well, that's necessary for you to succeed in any way, but what's the actual big trend, Saul?
I would say that...
In tech, I don't really care about anything else.
We're very alive to the fact that the web is no longer American and English speaking, and therefore you have to be multilingual and learn how to scale your services locally very quickly. And a lot of the big successes, I think, coming out of Europe have exhibited that.
Global, you mean having a global
Either global or learning to deal with the fact that different cultures need to have different services.
Which Americans aren't very good at, correct? Because they're focused on the U.S.
probably
market.
The ones who are best at it are Google. Right. And, you know, UK and Europe's 30 to 40% of Google's revenue base. So I think they're recognizable.
What's a big hype thing right now that you think is going on in the U.S. sector? Social networking? That's what we've been told by many.
Well, social networking, virtualization's pretty hyped. VMware's been a pretty phenomenal IPO. So I think between virtualization on the enterprise side and social networking on the consumer side, you got the two pantheons of hype there.
And what are we missing, very briefly? What are we missing?
Hype-wise?
Yeah. No, what are we missing in the U.S. that we're not? Mobile is probably something.
Mobile, probably, although, Google is clearly taking mobile pretty seriously now. So.
Any interesting companies that you're working on, very briefly?
OpenAds is probably one of the hottest, most interesting companies.
Open source ad network.
Open source ad serving.
Okay, excellent. Saul, I appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Emily, we're here in Britain. Behind you is St. James Park and the Royals. Indeed. What have you learned from your time here? This is Emily from DFJ. What are you?
DFJ.
DFJ.
Fisher-Dermotson.
Yes, you're a VC. What have you learned?
We've learned that there's a lot of enthusiastic entrepreneurs and venture investors in Cambridge and in London. And it's always good for venture capitalists and for entrepreneurs in Silicon Valley to get out and get a world perspective.
Because we're insular, right?
What?
We in Silicon Valley are insular.
I think sometimes, we're talking about Facebook a lot more than other people here are. They look
at Nobody cared.
They care, but they also care about some of their own, their own social networks and excited about their own companies that they funded.
So what's the takeaway for you? What's the thing you learned that's interesting? More about mobile or more in?
Well, mobile is very different here, but I think the big takeaway is that everybody needs to spend some time on planes and going and meeting people outside of Silicon Valley if you really want to understand how to address other markets. So I guess I have to travel more.
You do. Indeed, you have to. And is there any companies you found that you want to invest in?
Not yet. I have a lot of emails and I'm being told I have 5 minutes. I have to run downstairs.
All right. Thanks, Emily.
To be continued.
All right. Everybody say hi to Silicon Valley. Wait a minute. Say hi to Silicon Valley. Everyone in Europe, say hello.
There you go.
Hey. They can't wait to visit. They'll be here in a week.
We're wrapping up.
Hello, Silicon Valley. Prince Philip and I want to thank you for coming to Britain and visiting our Web 2.0 companies. Please make sure you say hello to that nice boy, Mark Zuckerberg.